Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And I have a very special guest on today. Her name is Brandi Veil. I hope I'm saying her last name right. She'll correct me, I'm sure. So, hey, stay with us. We'll be right back. And here we are. Let me welcome my guest, Brandi, to the show. Brandi, welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me
your
on.
Last name right?
Yes, Veil. I mean,
I don't know how else you would say veal. I don't know.
Veil, like behind the veil, which we'll probably talk about today.
I love that. Oh yeah, that's right. I did see that. That's right. Yeah. Hey, Weldon Whitehurst. I want to thank anyone in advance for sharing this out. Brandi is a very new friend and acquaintance of mine. Actually, it was only a few days ago that we met, I believe.
Yes, we one of our friends, our common interest in the brain world, Anish, was interviewed. Yeah. And so I actually texted him this morning.
Oh, did you?
He goes, I know Ken. I was like, well, by the way, that's how we connected, through you.
He is so awesome. So we have some amazing people joining us and already sharing this out. So that's awesome. So Brandi, I created this show 2.5 years ago, and it was to help the world get unstuck, because I think a lot of people get into problems or issues and they get stuck there and don't know how to get out. And I think by hearing other people's stories, we receive healing from that. Yeah. So let's start with where you were born and raised.
Thank you for asking. So I was born and raised in a small town in Homestead, Florida. And I moved from Florida, Central Florida, after Hurricane Andrew. So in 93, I think it was, 92, Hurricane Andrew hit. Our entire house imploded, and our family got separated. My mother had to take us up to Cocoa Beach. And then that's when I went out on my own as an emancipated minor, because we had to pretty much fend for ourselves at that point. Mom went back home. And that was the very first time that I had that insight about community, right? So when a natural disaster happens, you come together, and it's a God-given thing. It doesn't seem like it at the time, but that's what happened. And that taught me a lot about what I was going to do in the future.
And how old did you say you were?
At that time, I was 15. And turning 16, I was in my last year of high school. And so not the best story, but it really did prime me for what we're doing today. It's funny how that works, right?
Yeah. That I always say the predecessor of all wisdom is pain. So, and I think I got that from Dr. Wayne Dyer, actually. So you became an emancipated minor, which means you filed with the state.
Right. So basically you can't sign on electric bills or your own medical expenses or rent an apartment unless you have emancipated from your family and you're given full custody rights of yourself.
My goodness.
So I got started at a very young age. My brief story is mom worked 3 jobs, maybe 4, and sometimes 5 jobs at a time. 3 children. I'm middle child. And very interesting upbringing, loving family, but it was also very hard. And so, when you are raised to believe that life is hard, what do? You either come out with your sword
Yeah.
swinging, or you get your feet into, like, you find community, or you find resources, or you simply get depressed. And I didn't have that option. So
Wow.
became an entrepreneur at a very, very, very early age.
So at 16 years old is when you became an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Actually, I was an entrepreneur, working for the first time in the mall, I guess you can say that, at the age of 13 on a work permit. I always liked to work. I mean, I think it's just you're either born with it or you're not. And I loved trying to figure out the system of the economics. I loved having money. I loved having freedom. I mean, who doesn't like that? And
Right.
quickly I realized that's not a way you want to raise your family. You have to give them the foundation in order for suffering not to occur. So yes, of course, some suffering happened.
Wow.
But yeah, so that's the beginning of my work life.
So do you, and I love what Brian just asked, you became an entrepreneur to survive? That's a great question.
Yeah, okay. Yes and no. So in the very beginning, at the age of 13, I was just rebellious. I was like, fine, you don't have the money, I'm going to make my own money. And that was my mentality about everything in life. It's like, if you don't have it, I'll find it. I always had that fire. I always had that flair. I'm going to figure it out. My natural DNA is innovation. So even though things are great, it could always be better. It's just how my brain works. And so in the early stages, I learned about, the bus, getting on the bus without asking permission. That I definitely got a spanking when I got home. But it taught me these things on, how to sneak out of the house really early. And if you look at priming, right, the way that we prime ourselves in survival mode, thank you, Brian, is that we're put into these scenarios. And we're in a scenario right now. We're put into these scenarios so that we can flourish later on. And if we could just remember that every time we go through something hard, we know that on the other side, we have the tools now, right? So survival, I always felt like I had everything, even though it was a small amount of everything. I always felt like I had protection there. Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive. I mean, at such a young age, which I can relate. I wrote about it in my book. I can totally relate to that. And so here you are, a teenager. You become emancipated. Are you still living in in Florida at the time?
I was living in Florida, Central Florida. I lived there for about 5 years. And then I became somewhat of a spokesmodel for different action sports brands. I ended up touring the world, which was powerful because, at the early age of 22, living the life on jets and helicopters and speedboats, that kind of thing, it was kind of a dream. And then I moved to LA because LA showed me that you could have the lifestyle, and people actually wore makeup when they went to the 7-Eleven. I thought that was different. Florida, you wear flip-flops and a bikini. In LA, you get dressed up like you're going into the movies. And I liked it. It was fashionable. So I stayed here. And then, a lot more happened after that, as you can imagine.
Yeah. So you get to LA and you're how old? 22, 23, somewhere in there?
21, 22.
Oh,
yeah,
20,
21.
okay.
97.
Okay.
All right. And actually 96. And then the next year, I ended up having a baby. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Very, very much a gift, but also unexpected.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So were you at the time, were you still traveling the world and doing the action sport?
I was. These were the days of we'll glorify it for a moment, of bikini world. Okay, so Pamela Anderson and Carmen Electra and Dennis Rodman and Hawaiian Tropics and all the other things that came along with that. That was part of my world for a very long time. And then, of course, baby came. That changed everything, because you can't be swimwear model as a pregnant person.
Right.
I don't want to discriminate. Yeah, but it just changed. And I was taught, okay, now you got to fall back on those tools, right? I had to fall back on those tools. And so I just happened to have, this is actually a hopeful dream for all those out there listening.
Yeah.
I fell back on a nail license to do fingernails. And I ended up working at Giuseppe Franco's in Beverly Hills. And here's where the shift happened, right? So I'm putting myself back into this circle of, you know, you got the mafiosos, you have the Beverly Hills types, you got, you know, the shaking the money around. And it was just, it was comedy. It was one of those things. And I remember I had the baby, I had Kylan, my very first child. And I'm in the hospital, had baby, and two of the people who were my clients were getting arrested. And I remember thinking, oh, I know, this is a wild story. I remember thinking, well, if this isn't God or the universe's plan for me to get out of the world that I thought I was in, then I don't know what is. And I believe that was the very first sign of awakening for me. That was a very first sign. Of course, there's many, and we'll get into that shortly, but that was a big shift, is seeing a lifestyle that looked like it was fun on the outside, and then all of a sudden behind the scenes, people are getting arrested for money laundering and mafia kind of things. And, you know,
in Beverly Hills.
In Beverly Hills.
Oh my goodness.
I will say no names on this show.
So wow, that's insane. So what at that point, and you're at that point, you're I mean, you're still young right now, but like you're pretty young at the time, it sounded like. Was there, did fear suddenly kind of kick in at all and make you go,
no, because remember I've been doing this since I was 15, you know, figuring it out. And no, I just thought, wow, I know those guys. And thank goodness I wasn't a part of those stories, because some of the stories were not very kind to people. And I just remember knowing, but not really, you know, just shutting one eye to the story. So yeah, very fun times. And the list goes on, as you can imagine, Hollywood. And then I went on to Hollywood Nightlife, which is where I started my first company called Brandi Veil Events. Event production, event locations, became extremely successful. I had 1,200 restaurants and nightclubs. That's when I started working with celebrities and doing celebrity wrangling, Golden Globes and Oscars. So I put myself in a situation where hustle turned into an actual foundation for business. And this is before really the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not cracking, am I? Yeah. And so I had fax machines. We were faxing guest lists over. Yeah.
What?
And, and I just remember, I remember I'm going to do better, right? Innovation, better than this club owner is going to do. And I'm going to create my own event company within their company. And it turned out to be powerful because everybody came to me for filming and locations. I was the go-to person for filming in Hollywood and nightclubs and restaurants. And that's how I worked with Pink and some of these other Jay-Z and Beyonce and all these other events that I helped co-produce.
My gosh, I had no idea about all of that.
Yeah.
So, well, my best friend has been a Hollywood actor for 45 years, Glenn Morshower, but he doesn't live out there anymore. He lives in Dallas now. So, and do you know who Steve Sims is?
No, it doesn't. Maybe. No.
He was just on the show recently. He lives out there, but he works with Elton John and Richard Branson and some amazing people. But anyway, I'm doing something similar, like throwing parties and stuff for the wealthy people. I don't know.
You know, it's interesting the way my brain thinks, because I'm very right brain when it comes to a lot of names in the real world, when it comes to those, you know, those kinds of names. When you ask me about Greg Braden or Joe Dispenza or Nassim Harris in this other ethereal science-based quantum physics realm, you have my attention. Like all day I'll talk about those people and gods and goddesses. But when it comes to producers, I don't know. I've just somehow blinked it out.
it's like that's a part of my life I don't want to remember. So I'm kidding, but you were doing nails. Let's go back to you were doing nails. You had a baby. Is that a bad way to put it? Am I saying that wrong?
Yeah. No, I think it's great because anyone watching this show will go, okay, well, how did you get from there to here? Speaking on the UN stages and producing high level events and being a channeler, and it's a path. You just never know. You never know what you're here for.
You know what I love already about you is it sounds like you just stay open to whatever. Like it feels like you just are open to whatever God or the universe is going to send your way.
Yeah. There's a guidance. And I remember a long time ago, there's been 3 pivots in my world, in my life. Died twice, came back. I would say died, basically left consciousness, left my body, came back. And both of those times I realized, there's something that I'm here for. And so as a transition of a car accident, cognitive concussion, quadruple concussion, speech impediment, while running the event company, and just somehow managing to get through it, then my next disaster, 2008 to 2010, the implosion of the economic system. I lost everything. And somewhat of my business partner at the time, he didn't pass away, but he got extremely sick and wasn't able to support in the company. What else? And then these guidance pivots, if you are listening and oh God, use me in the greatest way possible. When you ask, it is given. And these are the keys to anything, right? When you ask, you open up, as you'd mentioned, and you wait and you see. We've all heard of The Secret or law of attraction.
Yeah.
But we ask in a vibrational hermetic, if you don't know what hermetic is, it's basically a biological inhabitants of your body and your cells. But the harmonics on the exterior, it just becomes you. And so when you ask, this is part of my channeling too, when you ask, you become it. It may not look like what you asked for, but it's a field that's a resonance that you can explore.
Yeah.
And I just love it so much because the mysticism behind it is not mystical at all. It's actually a science.
Yeah.
And if we take a look at all the pioneers who come before us, remember the ones who come before, then we can see where we're headed, which has given me the keys or the tools to help my clients to see the future, which is actually not the future. It's a creation point that they choose. And I just happen to guide them that way.
Wow. We're going to get deep, I can tell.
Obviously, it's my passion. Yeah.
Brian is asking, and I love this question here too. How did you not react with fear when you're having the baby, your clients are getting arrested, or some of them, and Pema Chadron, I don't know if you know who she is or not, but she's a Buddhist monk, and she's amazing. And she says, when shit's hitting the fan, I mean, when it's all starting to hit the fan and all around you, how did you not react with fear? How did you stay so centered? Is it just because you had the experience of, well, our house imploded in Florida, so,
that's a great question, Ken. And it really comes down to presence I remember every single time I was extremely present. When things get intense, you get real present. You can't think about past or future. You just in it. And I had so much going on. It just, as a new mother, as a relationship was trying to figure out, well, 27-year-old and a 22-year-old, how to have a baby. Mulberry Street Pizza, the father was taking a second job to make sure we were all good. It was one of those things. It was hard. It was truly hard. And when things are hard, right, and we know the science behind this, when things are hard, technically they're emotional, right?
Yeah.
So we get into the brain work that I do is when you're emotional, energy in motion, emotion, you start to create things. So I happened to create a lot of chaos at that time.
Well, and I think that's natural. A lot of people do that. That's a common response to chaos or fear, panic is we tend, I think people tend to generate even more chaos in their lives.
Right. And imagine having these tools. So somebody's out there right now having chaos, creating chaos. Somebody right now is going through mental health issues. Somebody's going through depression. We're at the highest levels of a percentage of our entire world right now on depression. And suicide is just off the charts. And if you're listening out there, know that it's just one breath away from out of chaos. One breath. And it's so simple. And I know it doesn't feel simple when you're in the middle of it, but it's one breath and one thought. And those are the two steps that I help with activating the brain, where we start to make manifest these visions for our life with my clients. So one breath, one thought of the life you've always wanted to live, how to get out of that story. And then you drop down into the motion of it and you feel overwhelming joy, overwhelming support. And you can fake it till you make it, guys. I mean it. Sometimes when you're depressed and you just love the way that habit feels, it's an addiction. Your hormones are addicted to your cells. I want you to feel sad. I want you to feel alone. I'm not worthy. And then all of a sudden, you feel I'm not worthy, I'm sad, and you're in a hole. And these chemicals in your body will react to it because they're doing what you ask. And so I help a lot of my clients get out of these cycles, and I help them use their emotions as I help them go in there and laugh at them, help them go in there and pull out, we call them different names at different times, like that silly Bob emotion. Oh, Bob. And then we'll use Bob as the emotion, and then we'll put Bob in a top hat. We do these visualizations because this whole story is a game, and it's one big creation, and you're the controller of that. So, there's these mental health pivots where you have to take responsibility. Stop eating the foods that aren't working for you, that are low vibration. Stop thinking the thoughts that are keeping you in a rut or in poverty brain state. I don't have any money kind of scenario. Or maybe you're in abundance brain, right? Circle around people who have gone before you in a passionate way and ask them for help. Ask. There's so many ways. It's what I do. It's what I'm here for. I'm a healing practitioner and a transformational coach. So we're creating the world we want to live in, right? I see Yuri. Hey, hi.
We talked about Yuri the other day. I love her. Yeah. She's amazing.
Yeah. Just kind of wrap that up is we all have a choice, and the place is a choice point. And that point itself is connected to another point. Which way do you want to go? It's that simple. Greg Braden says, simplify your life. Don't complicate it. We complicate things every day. Simplify it. One point to the next. Yeah. All right. Enough of that.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. And I want to go deeper on this too. But I think that, here you are with a newborn, and I don't, the client, some clients being arrested, and you're what is that, nail tech, is it esthetician
A nail technician?
or
That
something?
good.
Yeah.
No, estheticians for
You're is it so? But nonetheless, you're in a very high end nail place in Beverly Hills,
yeah.
and things
Hair
are
salon. Giuseppe
oh,
Franco.
it's a hair salon. Okay.
Mhm.
I've never been there, so I wouldn't know. I mean, I've been to Beverly Hills. I've just never been to that salon. But so what happened after that? Where did you go from there? I mean, is that the day you woke up and said, you know what, instead of doing nails, I think I'm going to have help people transform their lives?
Right. So going back to Hollywood, I took on the big company of the event production world and the celebrity endorsement world. And then I worked with Red Bull North America and helped launch them into pretty much every action sports show, event, art, concert, Gwen Stefani. I mean, I was touring everywhere, Cypress Hill. And so I was on stages. I just wasn't speaking at that time. And I was in the environment of talent. So I just felt always that was my world. But then when I had my car accident, and that was in 2007, I woke up. I remember I was in a very interesting relationship. I wanted out of that relationship. And I just went downstairs one day after an argument and I said, God, use me in your light. I just want to bask in your beauty. I want to bask in your presence. I want to be a hippie chick with braids. And I visioned, right, part of the steps, twirling in a white dress in a field of flowers, feeling emotional about it. And the next month I was in that car accident.
Wow.
And we both nearly died. I was in a coma for 3 days, quadruple concussion, speech impediment. He was separated from the hospital. So that was our first separation. He had a broken femur in 2 places. So when you go through something like that, so traumatic, 3 years of recovery, by the way, for me.
Wow.
Yeah. That's when my gifts happened.
And you had a baby.
Yes. Yeah. So my baby at that time, I think he was 5 or 6. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That had to, I mean, okay. So that created that definite, I mean, nobody could go, well, and it was really no big deal. That created some challenges. It had to have in life.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was where the supernatural came in. Imagine those movies you see.
Yeah.
Well, it happened to me. So here I am living this party kind of lifestyle and, being in this relationship which is not serving anyone. And that happens. And that was an intervening of the higher conscious. And then these spirits came to me over a course of 3 years. This is where I learned chanting, not because I was Googling it on YouTube, because energy moved through my body one day so fast, it overtook me. And I was in a scared me.
Wow.
Scared me. And I heard the voice. And this was my first experience with what it meant to have harmony with your higher self. As a Christian, I was raised as a Christian. I thought, I had no idea what was going on. All I know, I was praying over my bathwater every day, envisioning color, getting into this bathwater. And then this spirit came over me and it said, it's like yesterday, it's okay. We're here to help you. Wow. And I was quite daring at the time. So I was like, well, let me see if that will happen again. So I went back into this breathing and I let that spirit take me. And that's when I started doing so much research on 13-strand DNA, cognitive neurons, synaptic encounter, and Joe
Wow.
Dispenza taught me a lot about the brain and the healing modalities of Reiki and working with crystals and the metaphysical attributes of the vibrational fields and what it does to your cellular system. And so, of course, I went everywhere with my Hands of Light by Barbara Brennan book for 3 years. And it has not left me. I now have these, such a glorious gift. Ooh, get emotional. We call it the mandala heart. And and I say we is my guides, me, higher self. When you're in attunement with another soul and you realize that you came here to this planet and were reborn into a body to feel that unity presence again, that harmony, pain and suffering goes away almost immediately. And doing that practice for my clients, I started healing people on my table, on the same massage table that was bought for me to heal me. And I still use it to this day. It's taken on a life form of its own. And it's nothing you can be taught in a school. You have to just tune in to what's guiding you if you're open to that, right? A lot of us aren't open to it. A lot of us have no clue as the power of what or who we truly are.
Well, and I think that, and I talk about this a lot because I love Dr. Dispenza. He's amazing. Yeah. You know, the book that Don Miguel Ruiz wrote, The Four Agreements, he talks in the beginning of that book about the programming of the human. And so we're all born into this world in our truest self form, and then everybody starts programming us to have our political beliefs, our religious beliefs, our, you know, and then and Dr. Dyer talks about it. You know, we forget who we are. We forget because we have these programs running. And so what you're talking about is like you were literally just, the universe answered your call, God answered your call, however you want to define it, and said, okay, let us bring you back to who you are and strip you of all of the programming that you might have.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. Divine order. We refer to them now, as I've been writing for over 4 years, some channeling, and Algorithm of the Soul is a book that will eventually be born. But Algorithm of the Soul was this level of understanding how the algorithms work. I love innovation, wellness, and technology. I think they all work together. I believe that we're becoming a new human, not HUMAN, but HUEMAN. And these new humans are here now. Some people get a little bit strange with that statement, but when we wake up, we understand eternal life. And when we wake up, there's nothing stopping us. Nothing. Doesn't matter what your bank account says. Tomorrow it could have $100,000 in there if you had zero. That's how powerful the magic is, right? It happens every single day, these miracles.
Yeah.
We are awakening. So this is a very hot topic now, is what is the awakening? What is the golden age or the era? What are we actually catalyzing right now to create the new formative world, the new world that lives in harmony, justice, and freedom, which also equates to zeros and ones. So I won't go too big on this. It's just my passion. Zeros and ones is basically the grid, right?
Yep.
Of technology. It's how we code technology. It's no different from our blueprint of our biology. How we code ourselves is how the technology is mimicking us. So Algorithm of the Soul is how we connect with source. And source can be pretty much anything for you. You know, we're not biased. Everything is real. and everything is. So you've heard this probably. If it's negative, it is. If it's positive, it is. It's all real. So
Yeah.
don't judge others based on their programming. Just be an active observer and be powerful love conduit, because that is a program too. We're all running these programs. So in my channels, I'm given this very real principles of the reverential codes. So if you know, like coding in computers, I've been given the key codes for linguistical key codes. So when we're up leveling people, okay, up leveling means is to bring them to a higher level of frequency. And you use words like NLP or neurolinguistics programming to shift their body, which is what I do on timeline therapies or hypnosis or tapping. You are able to insert a new code. So these reverential codes, they call them, my guides, the Prince of Palates, a decree for all, and a union of kind. And so, I get goosebumps. And the union of kind is essentially this field of these new beings. We probably know it as kindness, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a union of kind is actually a culture. It's a culture of these new beings, or a tribe of these new beings. And they're everywhere now. And part of my mission from this day forward and the last several years is I'm looking for those masters, those master key holders who can continue to write books, author this new script, step into a governance that is powerful, not only in our current government system, right? So we'll talk a little politics here, but in the governance of your own self. That is the most powerful that you could ever have, is know where you're at and speak to yourself with kindness and share that with others, because that is the only way that we create the new world. We may think it's all these other things. That's a whole other conversation, but for the most part, it's you. It's you using these words.
So and I'm tracking with you. I get what you're saying, but I think that a lot of people probably don't. I mean, I'm just being real. You know that.
Yeah.
When you're talking to somebody, I mean, again, I have a friend that runs the suicide hotline for the state of Ohio. He's the head of the whole thing, and he told me that it's insane how high their volume is right now, and has been since the pandemic hit. When you're talking to somebody that's sitting there watching their car get towed away, and their landlord is saying, "Hey, you haven't paid rent," or whatever the situation is, when they're in that panic mode, and we've all been there, how do you bring them to that place of it's going to be okay? What do you say to that person that's going? Because I've been there. I'm a recovered alcoholic with 18 years sober, and prior to that, I was a lunatic, and I've been there where I watched my car get towed away. The electric was getting shut off soon, and couldn't afford to buy food for my children or my family. How do you bring that person out of the insanity of that moment and into the it's okay moment?
Yeah. Well, I'll ask you with a question: is what brought you out of it?
I have no idea. I do. I quit drinking eventually. I mean, it was the pain. It was the pain brought me out of it.
and most people remember that whole story in our first portion of this interview is the pain is putting on the tools so that you can get over it. If you can't get over it, it's unfortunate, but a lot of people do leave this planet and they'll have to repeat again, unfortunately, in that same energy.
Yeah.
The way that I look at things is patterns. You do pattern over time equals value. Value equals outcome, right? Or Jack Canfield's, I think he does ER, event. You probably know better than I do.
E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome.
There you are. So I track with clients or people who are in a very severe need. If you can get them out of chemical dependency into breathing and also cleansing with water and just basically an environment shift, then you can track their patterns of where, and a lot of this comes from trauma, sometimes even in vitro with family. Timeline therapy really works. But in the simplest of terms, what isn't working? What isn't working? Identify it. Give it a name. What isn't working, and then what is? And then we shift left brain, right brain. We shift from negative to positive. And that's a practice. So what's not working? What is working? I have a worksheet on that also that if people are interested, they can go to my website and get it. And then we focus on what's working. Then I'll bring them back to what's not working. And what I'm doing is I'm shifting their chemical in their body, their hormonal adjustments, so that they get used to what it feels like to be in balance. And then when you're in balance, you see you go from this like very narrow view to a peripheral view, which you can see, okay, I have choices now. Most of us, when we're in chemical dependency, we have no choice. We have survival. People who are in depression have survival. So when you give choice, which is really, it's a harmony of love, what's working, what's not working. And then from there, of course, environment, shift your environment and go from environment to resources. We all have resources. We all have resources. If it's not your family to come to or your support, then it's your friends. If it's not your friends, then it's your neighbors or government. However that looks, a lot of people are in that story right now. There's tons of money out there right now for people who are struggling financially, but you have to get up in the morning and you need to fill out the applications. There's no excuse. And if you're in a chemical dependency, you have to start at a different totem pole, right? A different start. So there's always a way. There's always, and the easiest of them all, ask. Help. help. I'm at my lowest of all low. I need your help. And then you'll start to see it. So
I've got your website scrolling there. So here, Weldon has a question. What can you do when they either can't or won't move out of the bad environment so they can be helped?
That's a great question, Weldon. You know, it's unfortunate, especially if it's a family member or somebody who you dearly love. Sometimes they have to take control of their own life. You can intervene as much as possible, but in that environment, sometimes rock bottom has to be rock bottom. It's just what it is. Now, shifting the environment that may not be as conducive as positive, right, is a matter of changing what's going on in the space. So deeper question, I would love to spend more time with you on that. So please communicate with me. I have some more answers for you. Cleaning your house, right? So if you're in a depressive state, clean your house. Get all of the clutter out of there. You have boxes piled up or dirty clothes or anything of that nature, just take the photos off the wall, change them around the house.
Yeah.
Energy stores. So it's small little increment changes you can do.
And these are not, just for the record, these are not woo woo foo foo. This is real stuff. And I can remember when I first dove into this, and I've been in this now for a long time. And when I first started, I was like, I grew up in a Pentecostal church. They would be praying, they'd be praying over you right now, speaking in tongues, and they would laying hands on you, rebuking the demons.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is real stuff when you say, hey, the stuff in your house hanging on the walls actually is holding energy, and you can literally shift the energy of your environment by removing or changing them around.
And it costs no money.
Nothing.
Nothing. Same thing. If your partner, this is my own personal life, if your partner hasn't washed your car and it's piling up with trash and is dirty, go and wash it. Take it for them. If they can't seem to do it themselves, just do it for them. Maybe
right.
that
I
might
hope
be
my wife is listening right now. My car needs washed, babe.
There are these. We cleaned out our cabinet on the weekend, and I realized how much joy I got out of that, because there were all these things that I didn't need, like little loose ends. And I realized over time that is actually an inside thing. Cleaning up your house doesn't always mean cleaning your physical house, but cleaning up what's going on the inside of you too. That practice is so important. Daily scanning. What's going on? How am I feeling today? Why do I feel sad? Oh, okay, maybe I should ask for help. And I know that's the first thing that is the hardest, is asking for help. So just start with yourself. Journal. Just write it out. Brain dump. I'd be happy to send you so much information. Just email me or on my website. Just get it out onto paper and then set it on fire in a ritual if you want to do a ritual, or just plant it into the ground. It's paper. It will dissolve. Give it back to Gaia. Give it back to the earth. It's not yours to hang on to. All the drama is not yours. It was there to teach you something. Don't hold on to it. Let it go. Make room for the good stuff.
My wife is watching. Look, she's laughing at my comment. And Tom says, how true, everything is energy. And Einstein said it. Everything is energy in motion. Everything. And ever since I heard that statement, I'm like, man, if that's true, and it is, I mean, how important is paying attention to everything going on around you?
I have a good one for you. Okay. People don't pay attention to their breath. Let's do that. And imagine your environment with your vision. If you are in a place where you can see what's going on around you and you breathe in, ask yourself this: do I like what I just breathed in or not? And if you don't, change it. Walk out. Go to a place, go to the park, get out of the place that you don't like, and breathe. And allow those molecules to be ingested. This might be a little meta, but every particle, every electron, every neuron, every aspect of breath is life. And if you are in an environment that is nature and natural, is a habitat with water and just at the park, perhaps, lay and breathe. And imagine your cells that are rejuvenating and cleansing and clearing and detoxifying your cellular system. Guess what it's doing? It's actually opening up the space for the same frequency that you just inhaled. So if you're not drinking water, drink water. Water is life. Breath, both of them are free. I mean, they should be.
Right? You know what? I have a couple of things. Number one, I've been homeless and so broke I couldn't afford to pay attention. And I've been very wealthy. And I can tell you that very wealthy is better. And it's way better. It's so much better than being poor.
Yeah.
And I think it was Abraham Lincoln said, the best way to help the poor is not to be one of them. And I think that, we have as a society, I believe that we've put the almighty dollar before our spiritual wellness or our spiritual well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you're spiritually whole, when you and I don't know that you ever can get there without dying and returning back to the source, but I mean, to be completely whole with no fears, nothing, but I guess whatever. But anyway, so I think that people have forgotten that it's okay. They get stuck in their fears and they've forgotten that it's their natural right
Mm-hmm.
to experience wealth and freedom and joy and all of that.
Mm-hmm. And thank you so much. I have also been there. I have been on welfare. I have 2 children. I have, I remember standing in the welfare line, and this is the first time I've ever said this in public, by the way. And I've just decided total transparency about our economic system is why I choose the work I do. Is standing in that line, I had created a story that was, I have to go through this. I'm going to change the economy because I have no money right now and I have children. I have to do this or that. But the truth is, and this is a revelation recently for me, the truth is there's poverty thoughts, poverty brain, and then there's wealth brain or wealth thoughts.
Yeah.
There's poverty sounds and there's wealth sounds. And if you just like Wayne Dyer, right? With the meditation, it costs no money. This is a choice. You just have to make it. There's so many free applications online these days. We're living in a place of abundance, and we just have to choose it. And it's not rocket science. It literally is a choice. Now, the application of that is, how do you apply that principle every single day until you get the results that you want? Now, that's when you call me, or you call Ken, or you call others to help you figure out your formative business so that you can have returns on your time, which equals money. And by the way, money to me is currency, and currency is profiting. And profiting is where you get to go out and spread the good word of love and freedom and harmony, right? So we have to make money. We cannot avoid this conversation. It's just silly. So that's part of where we're at today. That's why we're doing what we're doing.
Have you found, I mean, I this is a rhetorical question because I know that you have, there's no way you haven't. People are, and you said it a minute ago, you were talking about, you had created this story and you were standing in the welfare line and you were living in this story that you had created. And I've found so many people do not actually want to be helped. They want someone to listen to their victim mentality or their story of being a victim that they are constantly walking around telling themselves. And I know you've seen that, right?
I do. It doesn't come to me very often these days because it's not what I'm putting out there to the world.
Right.
You see, so if I had that in me, then I would attract more of those people. I attract I attract people who are now, like I said before, masters doing the work and weaving new stories for all of us. And of course, there's a trickle down effect. So the victim mentality, I don't even know how to relate anymore. And I because I choose not to. I know that sounds very elitist, but we have to choose it. If it exists and you choose it, it exists. If you choose not, you can live in reverential key codes, right? I dress like this because I feel like every day I'm going to wake up and meet God. I better be prepared, and it makes me feel good. And it reminds me of Bangladesh, so the way you dress and you insert your life, those are the people and the things you'll attract. So you know how this goes.
I do. I love your answer. To anyone, I can't even believe we're already at an hour. That's insane.
Yeah.
That went by so fast. So for someone, how do I say? Okay, I'm just going to ask the question I ask every guest. Sure. In your opinion, What do you think it is? What's the number one thing that holds people back from experiencing success, joy, freedom, happiness? What's the number one thing?
I have two, but I'll just start with the most obvious one, which is fear of the unknown. And what I've recently learned, and 99% of my clients have issues with, and you know who you are out there if you're listening to this, is trust. And so fear and trust, sometimes that one or the other happens first, but fear of the unknown, that's not focused on the present. Trust is because they've been abandoned at some point. My dear friend, he's just amazing, Joel Horowitz, he said, Brandi, everybody has abandonment issues because the second that we were born, we had to leave our mother.
Mm.
And in that moment, right?
That's
so
powerful.
Let's just all start to remember, we've never left the mother. We've never, ever, we're still in the womb. We're still growing as beings. So even though we might think that we are alone, we're still fully connected, still having that. So trust is patterns over time. If you're having trust issues, patterns over time, observe the people and places and things you're with and notice it. If it doesn't work, get rid of it. Sorry. Yeah. If it doesn't work, tweak it a little bit until it does. Tweak it just slightly with your language. And I can help train you on that if you're listening to this.
Wow. That is so powerful. So fear back to the person, pardon me?
Fear and trust. Those are the big ones.
I love that. The everybody has abandonment issues to some degree. That's powerful. So somebody calls you and they say, it's just not working. Everything I try is not working out. My car was repossessed last week. My electric's being shut off tomorrow. I'm freaking out. What do you say to them in that moment to bring them to the reality of the real reality of the situation?
First, I say, take a deep breath, deep inhale. Let's just be for a moment. Let's be together. Exhale. Notice your heart. Notice how your heart is beating without you asking it. Deep inhale. Exhale. Notice how your blood is being nourished right now with no money, no other thing except for life. Inhale, and I will bring them through a process. And this is where the body starts to slow down the thoughts. And then we get into a state, right? We have a state change. And then I'll ask them, what is it that they want right now? And if they go off into a cycle again, I'll go back to breath, go back to heart, because heart and brain, they work together to help you simultaneously start to harmonize with the nature's laws, which is 432 hertz, and the earth's frequency, and also the ethereal, which is balance, and the Om, which allows you to get into the state of peace. When the thoughts start to rummage, it's just a cycle. And sometimes it takes a little more time than others, but breath and heart, we are abundant. Just reminding people of that love and trust.
Brandi, you are amazing.
Thank you.
I am so grateful that you invested this time with us this morning. I think, and what I think is really cool is you do exactly what you just did with the breathing, and you do that on Facebook Lives on your page.
Monday mantra. Yes.
I love it too. It's amazing. So everybody watching this should have shared it out. If you didn't share it out, please do. B, go follow Brandi on her Facebook page. And I have your website up in the background. Is your social media? Yeah, it's all on there.
Yeah.
All of the social media links to follow Brandi are on her website at brandiveil.com. And what's the best way to contact you if somebody wants to chat?
Sure. You can go into my Facebook business profile right there. It gives you, we have a love bot. You can put the word power in to receive the 20 tips power for the brain activations. And if you want to just have a 15-minute session with me, I would love to do that. It's complimentary. I didn't mention I do intuitive consulting and channeling, so I immediately can help somebody. It's in 15 minutes or less. So, it's there. I'm in service to the greatest good of all love. And if a person is in curiosity, I'm here. I'm here.
So amazing. Thank you so much for being here today. I think I think we can do more together in the future as well. So if you don't mind, stay with me. I'm going to end the live stream, and everybody have a fantastic day. Be blessed. Thank you, Brandi, so much.
Thank you.